Justin, from what little movement we saw out in the middle, it looked like Josh Hazlewood was warming up and Mitch Starc wasn't. So is it fair to say that he would have played if play was underway today?
Yeah, he's going to play today, yeah.
Okay, so what led to Hazlewood being picked?
Oh, he's got an outstanding record. He's built up over the last few months. He missed out on the World Cup because we felt that he hadn't played much cricket. We know he's an outstanding bowler. We know that the style of play, when I play against England at his best, should execute those plans really well. He's bowled well the last couple of weeks, and we hope he does a good job for us in this Test match.
And how's James Pattinson taken the news of being rested?
Oh no, he took it. We collaborated on that one, and I think it's been important for him in his return to cricket. I think in the past he's felt a bit that he had to play and had to play and had to push, and in those instances he usually broke at some point. So really good collaboration between all of us. That was our deal, the two of us in Hampshire earlier in the summer when we talked about what his program would be with Notts. We've had a really good communication with Notts as well. And he's fine. We talked about it. He was a little bit stiff after bowling on Monday morning. So we knew he could only bowl one of the two back-to-back games, and whilst he'd had 8 or 9 days, we knew that he could only play one. He couldn't play back-to-back Test matches, and we just felt that having pulled up a little bit stiff after bowling, that it was common sense that he'd do everything possible to keep getting himself prepared and hungry and ready for the third Test.
What gave Josh the edge over Mitch Starc in your thinking?
Just mainly what I just said then, Pete, that the style of play we want to play here against England. He hits a great length. He's usually pretty miserly in his economy rate, so that's what gave him the edge in this game.
Ian.
And don't get me wrong, it's a hard decision. Like all these are really tough decisions. Like all of them, if it comes off, we know what we're doing. If it doesn't, we don't. So but that's just the business we're in. It's a tough call, though. It's a really tough call.
Justin, you got out into the middle for about 45 minutes or so, looking at the pitch. What do you think? Is it a kind of bat first pitch?
Oh, good question. We sort of had a joke there for a moment, and this is something for you guys to mull over. If the captain tosses the coin and he wins the toss, can he ask the opposition to make the choice? I think we've sort of decided that you can't do that. The umpires, a couple of the umpires weren't sure. They checked for us, but I think you've got to make a decision. You've got to bat or bowl. So it's going to be a tough call. Today would have been tough. We knew there's a bit of rain around. There's obviously overhead conditions, but the grass is wet, so you don't really want to wet. Knowing how the Duke's ball goes, it gets a bit soft when it gets a bit wet. So lucky we didn't have to make that decision. Tim didn't have to make that decision, or Joe didn't have to make that decision today. We'll see how it pulls up, but it looks like a pretty good cricket wicket. Quite dry though underneath.
Justin, now well over a year into your coaching role, how have you seen it develop? Have you started delegating a lot more work to the support staff? Now you seem to have a settled support staff with Hick, Sriram, Haddon, especially in the nets. Has it changed, or is it constantly changing how you use them and how you your role?
A lot of it comes down to management. There's so many. You got your staff. You got a bigger squad. We've got 17 players, so you're constantly managing different players. But I guess I still like to get my hands dirty and roll up my sleeves. I've thrown a lot of balls these last few days, but we're lucky in, I guess, the era that we're in. That there's lots of people who can help out. So that. We like to mix it around. We've got really good support staff. They've all got their skills and their talents and expertise. So we all try and work together to get the best results.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hugh, first of all.
Just with the forecast and the fact that you've lost today, how does it change the way that you and the side approach this match?
Well, at this stage, we only lose 2 hours in the Test match, so it won't affect too much. We'll still hopefully, depending on weather, which we can't control, there's plenty of time for, like I say, 2 hours in the Test match isn't much in the bigger picture of it. So there'll be obviously longer sessions that we're going to have to deal with, but our guys have said all along we have to keep adapting and be ready with whatever the conditions or the situations of the games throw up at us.
And just quickly, what's the mood been like in the dressing rooms today? What have they been doing to keep themselves occupied?
It's actually quite luxurious in the Lord's change room. To be fair, the lunches are good, but it's actually quite mentally tiring because you're always on edge. Are we going to get out? Then we went and warmed up, as you would have seen. So everyone's a bit on edge. It's mentally quite taxing. Physically, it's obviously not. But the boys have just been doing it. Some play cards, some sleep, some listen to music, some read their books, some just sit around and talk all day. So everyone does it a bit differently.
Great.
Yeah, Justin, how much has it helped having all the players involved in either county cricket or the Australia A Tour?
I think it's been, we'll wait and see. At the end of again, depending on the outcome of this series, people say it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but we felt that our preparation coming into the series has been excellent. We had lots of guys playing cricket. We had, as you said, county cricket. We forecast probably 12 months ago that it would be good to have guys here and playing red ball cricket. So initially, as say after Edgbaston, it's worked okay, but we think the preparation's been really good.
Justin, is it a bit of a still evolving, I suppose, conversation and understanding about how you deal with fast bowlers and, having 6 here and that sort of discussion with James? Is it an area that is going to keep evolving and we may not actually be at the final destination in terms of how you manage them in the future?
Well, I said the other day, it's the first time in however long I've been coaching that we've actually had the luxury of having 6 fast bowlers fit, high-class fast bowlers fit up and running. So we're lucky in this situation to be able to do that, but it doesn't happen very often. That's the truth. And maybe that's why a number of bowlers break down over time, because you've got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, particularly in series, particularly with the schedules they are now. We've got 5 test matches in 6 weeks, plus a couple of county games in between. So if you have got guys fit, you're not constantly pushing them, which ultimately leads to breaking them, and that's just with the unnatural action of a bowler. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, history will tell you that's what happens. So if we're lucky enough to have guys who we can keep bringing in and out and firing, that's a real luxury to have.
And just off the back of, I asked you the other day about Steve Smith and keeping him mentally fresh. When do you think you have the conversation about, I suppose, whether he cuts back on going from 3 formats to 2 or to 1, that kind of thing?
Yes, that'll be always evolving conversations. People, they're great for a reason. They love playing cricket, so you've just got to, that'll just keep evolving, I think.
1, 2, and then Rob, the last one. Alan?
Justin, is it almost a relief that it gets called off today because you can start again fresh tomorrow, whereas if you'd gone out there for an hour, you can't win a test in that time, but you could go a long way to losing one, couldn't you?
Yeah, we talked about that actually, and I keep saying we're here for a 5 test match series, and these moments, we saw it in Edgbaston, whether it was the partnership with Peter Sidland and Steve Smith, or the partnership with Nathan Lyon, or that England were only 17 runs ahead on day 3, and in that session we sort of turned the whole game around. England were only 4 down, and that was an unbelievable little session for us. So it's about sessions, it's about hours, and regardless of whether we play a full day, Andrew, we play parts of a game like we potentially would have done today, you've got to be on, and that was the message to the boys. Whatever happens, we've got to be on, we've got to be ready, because it can change a test match and ultimately a series within an hour or a couple of hours or a couple of sessions.
JL, Hugh partly stole my question, but who's the biggest character that you want to have in a dressing room on a day like this, and who's the one you want to steer clear of?
Probably Peter Siddle, I'd say.
The biggest characters?
Yeah, Peter Siddle, yeah. He's always dancing and laughing and telling jokes and telling stories. Yeah, he's not the one you're actually... He's quite magnetic because he's such a good bloke, and he provides that energy. That's why on the surface you see a 34-year-old, however old, 34 or 35-year-old bloke who's people might have thought never play Test cricket for Australia again. But when you know what he's like in the dressing room and out on the field and what he brings to the team, you don't have to stand in that dressing room for half an hour and you'd get a pretty good sense of why he's important to the Australian cricket team.
Last one with Rob. Wait for the microphone, please.
Just another one on Steve. There's a school of thought that maybe not having the captaincy that's freed him up a little bit. I know it's a small sample size and he was a pretty good batsman before, but do you think there's anything to that? I suppose thinking, say, look at this match, not having a sleepless night, worrying about what he'd do at the toss.
What are the statistics?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. He's pretty,
He
as I
does
say, the
he does
statistics
pretty
are pretty
well,
reasonable.
whether he's captain or not. So he's a great player. He's not captain at the moment. He's been a good captain in the past for Australia. The statistics are pretty. I imagine I don't know them either, so it's hard for me to answer the question. But when you're averaging 60 odd in Test cricket, whether you got the C next to your name or not, means you're going pretty well.
So you don't think there's no sort of, from what you've seen, no difference in the way he's batting and whatnot?
Well, I've only been in the job for a time when he's not captain, and I saw him get 140 both innings. It's pretty incredible innings. So I haven't been in the job when he has been captain yet. So time will tell.